So I was gonna finish the second mystery box from earlier today. So I was in the middle of the second Time Spiral Remastered pack. We had Shade of Trocaire. It's a 1/2 creature, a shade for 3 in the plains. You can pay a plains. Shade of Trocaire gets +1/+1 until end of turn, where you're only tapping mana, not this guy. You can do that as many times as you have mana. Suspend 3 and planes. The reminder text says rather than cast this card from your hand, you may pay a planes and exile this card with 3 time counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a time counter. When the last is removed, cast it without paying its mana cost. It has haste. Darkheart Sliver. It's a 2/2 creature, a sliver for a swamp and a forest. All slivers have sacrifice this permanent. You gain 3 life. I mean, I'm not huge on sacrificing my creatures, but um, if you're almost dead, sacrificing 1 to get 3 life, especially if you end up with a bunch of sliver tokens somehow. Riftwing, Cloudskate. It's a 2/2 creature, an illusion for 3 and 2 islands. Has flying. When Riftwing Cloudskate enters the battlefield, return target permanent to its owner's hand. So that could be beneficial. You either return a creature an opponent controls to their hand so that one of your creatures can attack and potentially not be killed, or just to make your opponent forced to use resources recasting something, choosing between recasting something or playing something else in their hand. Or you could theoretically return something of yours to your hand to then play it again to get enter the battlefield triggers. So just very situational. What might be more beneficial has a suspend 3 cost of 1 in an island. Rather than cast this card from your hand, you may pay 1 in an island and exile it with 3 time counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a time counter. When the last is removed, cast it without paying its mana cost. It has haste. Spellburst. It's an instant for X and an island. Buyback 3. The reminder text says you may pay an additional 3 as you cast a spell. If you do, put this card into your hand as it resolves. Counter target spell with converted mana cost X. So, I mean, kind of interesting that it's a counter spell that has X in the casting cost. But then the buyback is 3, so I guess it prevents you from potentially countering something big of your opponent's, something that's 8 or 10. It kind of prevents you from countering that and then paying 3 to get it back. Like, unless you just have a way of getting infinite mana, because, you're paying, let's say they cast something for 10, you have to pay 10 in an island, so 11 to counter their spell, 3 to buy it back, that's 14. But if you're countering something smaller, it's not the end of the world. Flagstone of Tricair. It's a legendary land tapped out of plains. When Flagstone of Tricair is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may search your library for a plains card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So, I mean, not only does it tap for mana, if it's sent to the graveyard, you're basically getting a tutor off this going to the graveyard. Trigon Predator. It's a 2/3 creature, a beast for one, a forest and an island. Has flying. Whenever Trigon Predator deals combat damage to a player, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment that player controls. I mean, a 2/3 flyer, that's decent, for three. And destroying an artifact or enchantment, like with how many artifact decks or enchantment decks are, as long as you can buff this guy enough to deal damage, um, you know, or not die to one of your opponent's blocking creatures. I mean, this is gonna run wild. Gaea's Anthem. It's an enchantment for 1 and 2 forest. Creatures you control get +1/+1. And then this one, I don't know if you can see with the camera angle, but this one's a foil. And then we have Cloud Sprite as the token. It's a 1/1 token creature, a fairy with flying. Cloud Sprite can block only creatures with flying. So that's kind of interesting that it's like a 1/1 flyer that can only block flyers. But I guess situationally you'd want to, water down some tokens. I mean, that's why there's 0/1 tokens. Notably, that I can think of, you have the Eldrazi spawns or scions, whichever one it happens to be. So next we have Dominaria. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So, first card out of the pack is Opt. It's an instant for an island, scry 1. The reminder text says, look at the top card of your library. You may put that card on the bottom of your library. Draw a card. So kind of good for fixing card draw and then, getting to draw that card. Adamant Will. It's an instant for 1 in the plains. Target creature gets +2/+2 and gains indestructible until end of turn. The reminder text says damage and effects that say destroy, don't destroy it. Guide to Lava Runner. The 1/2 creature, a human wizard for a mound. As long as there are 2 or more instants and or sorcery cards in your graveyard. Guide 2 Lava Runner gets +1/+1 and has haste. Caligo Skin-Witch. It's a 1/3 creature, a human wizard for 1 in a swamp. The kicker is 3 in a swamp. And the reminder text says you may pay an additional 3 in a swamp as you cast this spell. Whenever Caligo Skin-Witch enters the battlefield. If it was kicked, each opponent discards 2 cards. So, I mean, 4 might be a lot of extra mana, but to get your opponent to discard, excuse me, um, to get them to discard 2 cards, that's pretty good. Llanowar Envy. It's a 2/2 creature, an elf scout for 2 in a forest. You can pay 1 in a forest to add 1 mana of any color. So, I mean, 2 mana might be a lot to get 1 mana, but if you don't have the mana you need, 2 to get the color you need, could be beneficial. Mana fixing, depending on the situation, is always helpful. Nowadays, I feel like there's creatures that tap to let you add 1 of any color, so you shouldn't have to pay 2 to get 1 mana of any color, but that's neither here nor there. It's something out of the pack that's getting added to my collection. Gideon's Reproach. It's an instant for 1 in the plains. Gideon's Reproach deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. I always find it kind of interesting the more niche removal type or burn type spells. Your opponent has an attacking or blocking creature. You hit for 4. If its toughness is 4 or less, this is basically a kill spell. Or, your 2/2 deals 2 damage to your opponent, but they have 6 toughness, so you drop their 6 toughness creature down to 4. You hit him with this. You kill your opponent's creature. Just depends on what's going on. You could potentially, in that case, kill something bigger than you're attacking or blocking with. Run amok. It's an instant for 1 in the mound. Target attacking creature gets +3/+3 and gains trample until end of turn. I don't always think of red as trample, but to pump for 3/3 and give the creature trample is pretty nice, because I mean it might be the difference between just killing a creature and killing a creature and doing damage to your opponent. And sometimes if your opponent's blocking with something that would be just enough that your creatures are trading, then the 3/3 buff would be enough to have your guys survive, and then the trample would just be icing on the cake of doing some excess damage to your opponent. Volcanic Servant. It's a 1/3 artifact creature, a construct for 2. At the beginning of your end step, untap target artifact. I mean, that's potentially helpful. You tap a Soul Ring for, the 2 colorless to play this, and then the end of your turn, you untap the Soul Ring, which happens to be a artifact that you're targeting, and then you have two colorless to go towards an instant on your opponent's turn. Or if you have some kind of a permanent with flash, you could put that, 2 mana towards the thing with flash. Unwind. It's an instant for 2 and a island. Counter target non-creature spell. Untap up to 3 lands. I almost want to say this was in another um, pack I opened for one of these mystery boxes because I vaguely remember having the counter spell that untaps the same amount as the casting cost for the counter. I mean, it's kind of specific where it's you're targeting a non-creature spell. So at that point, if that's the only counter spell you have, your opponent plays a creature, you kind of have to let them play the creature and hope you pull out a removal spell. Avis create. Avis create. Might be mispronouncing it. It's a sorcery for 3 in a swamp. Destroy target creature. So kind of interesting. We were talking about a counterspell that can't counter creatures, and then hoping you'd have a removal, and then the next card from this pack happens to be a removal spell for a creature. Kind of interesting, I guess. Fungal Plots. It's an enchantment for 1 in a forest. You can pay 1 in a forest, exile a creature card from your graveyard. Create a 1/1 green sapling creature token. Sacrifice 2 saplings. You gain 2 life and draw a card. I mean, I'm not big on exiling stuff from my graveyard because then I can't grab the stuff from the graveyard to put on my battlefield or in my library or anything like that. But getting the tokens to then eventually sacrifice a couple of them to, um, you know, gain life and draw a card, you know, kind of balances out a little bit. Like, even though I'm also not big on sacrificing my creatures, you can kind of see how, very niche situations that could be, helpful. Juggernaut. I vaguely remember this guy from maybe a decade or so ago when I was playing, probably between 10 and 15 years ago, actually, when I was playing with a friend and her boyfriend. Well, her boyfriend at that time, at least. It's a 5/3 artifact creature, a juggernaut. Kind of ironic, the creature type's the name of the card. For 4, Juggernaut attacks each turn if able. Juggernaut can't be blocked by walls. I mean, I remember when walls used to be a thing. Now it's creatures that have defender, but walls and defender are kind of the same idea. They're creatures that can attack unless it specifically says, the creature can attack in this situation. Territorial Allosaurus. It's a 5/5 creature, a dinosaur for 2 and 2 forest. The kicker is 2 in a forest, so the reminder text says you may pay an additional 2 in a forest as you cast this spell. When Territorial Allosaurus enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, it fights another target creature. So a 5/5 that if you pay 3 on top of the casting cost, it fights another target creature. Um, and then normally I don't read the flavor text down below, but this one happens to say a living remnant of the Ice Age. Kind of an interesting nod to one of the set names, but also ironic because the dinosaurs would have died out um, before the Ice Age. So yeah, or at least the most recent ones. Uh, Tetsuko Umezawa Fugitive. I don't even know if I'm getting that even remotely close. It's a 1/3 legendary creature, a human rogue for 1 and an island. Creatures you control with power or toughness 1 or less can't be blocked. I mean, if you're attacking with something that has 1 power or toughness and you do damage with either for 0 or 1, I mean, that's really not going to do much. So I guess making them unblockable unless you have like 100 tokens is like your opponent's going to be like, oh, okay, whatever. And if you have 100 tokens, hopefully they have, hopefully for them, I guess, they would have some kind of board wipe or something to prevent you from swinging for 100 that would, in this case, be unblockable because, power or toughness 1 or less can't be blocked. Then we have basic land, which is a forest, and the 1/1 sapling token. So here's the first Innistrad Midnight Hunt pack for the mystery box. Kind of odd that both mystery boxes happen to have 2 of these. And these seem to be glued together well because it doesn't want to open easily. So we have Duress, which a lot of people seem to hate. It's a sorcery for a swamp. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a target non-creature, non-land card from it. That player discards that card. I mean, not only are you seeing your opponent's hand, you're picking a card for them to discard. I could see why people would hate this, especially for uh, only a single mana. Um, Might of the Old Ways. It's an instant for 1 in a forest. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Coven. Then, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, draw a card. So, a buff for a creature, and depending on how many creatures you have with different powers, also a card draw. So, in that case, a decent value for the mana cost. Crossroads Candle Guide. I feel like this is another card that has been in the, these mystery boxes. Maybe this is the second time because the name sounds familiar. It's a 3/4 artifact creature, a scarecrow. I feel like there's not a ton of scarecrows, so that's also why it kind of seems familiar. Um, yeah, artifact creature, a scarecrow for 4. When Crossroad Candle Guide enters the battlefield, exile up to one target card from a graveyard. Where it says a graveyard doesn't have to be yours, it could be your opponent's. But again, it's only one card, so it's like, you know, small drop in the bucket if you're getting rid of like a card from your opponent's graveyard. You can pay 2 to add 1 mana of any color. So again, some mana fixing. Um, I feel like there's now ways of, you know, getting the color you need without having to pay 2 to get 1. Creatures that tap to add 1 of any color versus, a creature that taps just to add a specific color. Flip the switch. It's an instant for 2 and an island. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 4. Create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed. The reminder text says it can't be, or it can't block. When it attacks, sacrifice it at the end of combat. Mork Rut Behemoth. It's a 7/6 creature, a zombie giant for 4 and a swamp. As additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature or pay 1 in a swamp. Has Menace. The reminder text says this creature can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. I mean, black is kind of known for potentially punishing you, but a 7/6 with Menace for 5 seems cheap, so having to sacrifice the creature or pay an additional 1 in a swamp, which would make it cost 5 and 2 swamps. I mean, that seems more fair. You know, 5 and sacrificing a creature or a total of 7, like, that seems more balanced to get a 7/6 with Menace. Brimstone Vantal. It's a 2/3 creature, a devil for 2 and a mountain. It has Menace. This creature can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. If it's neither day nor night, it becomes day as Brimstone Vandal enters the battlefield. Whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, Brimstone Vandal deals 1 damage to each opponent. I mean, I'm not big on the day and night theme, but to do 1 damage to your opponent as it switches from one to the other, that is kind of cool. Like, it's very niche, but it's cool. Organ Hoarder. It's a 3/2 creature, a zombie for 3 and an island. When Organ Hoarder enters the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of your library. Then put 1 of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. So it's almost feels like a worse version of Surveil because instead of picking and choosing, you know, top of your library or graveyard, top of your library, graveyard, like instead of doing that for each card, you're saying, um, 1's coming to my hand, the rest is going to the graveyard. Homestead Courage. It's a sorcery for a plains. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. It gains vigilance until end of turn. The flashback is a plains. The reminder text. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its flashback cost, then exile it. Lunark Veteran. Oh, I just threw those cards, so I think they might have gone out of order a little bit from the pack, but Lunark Veteran is a 1/1 creature, a human cleric for a plains. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life. Disturb 1 and a plains. The reminder text says you may cast this card from your graveyard transformed for its disturbed Karlov. So, if this 1/1 card goes to graveyard, you pay 1 in a plains, it comes back, transform to the other side, which is Luminous Phantom. It's a 1/1 creature, a spirit cleric with flying. Whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, you gain a life. If Luminous Phantom would be put into the graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. Sledge Monster. It's a 5/5 creature, a horror for 3 and 2 islands. Whenever a sludge monster enters the battlefield or attacks, put a slime counter on up to 1 target creature. Non-horror creatures with slime counters on them lose all abilities and have base power and toughness of 2/2. So, I mean, that's kind of cool that you're all non-horror creatures that have the slime counters are basically getting weaker and losing abilities. You have a full art mountain, where I had thrown these cards. I don't know if that was supposed to be in the middle of it, or if I shuffled it to a different spot. Frenzied Trap Breaker. It's a 3/3 creature, a werewolf for. Oh, that's the backside of the card. Sorry. Outlander Liberator is the front side. It's a 2/3 creature, a human wolf for 1 in a forest. You can pay 1, sacrifice, Outlast, Liberator, destroy target artifact or enchantment. That's, kind of a trade-off. You're sacrificing something of yours to destroy an artifact or enchantment, but to deal with some artifacts or enchantments, that's a trade-off I'm willing to take. Daybound, if a player casts no spells during their own turn, it becomes night. So I started to talk about Frenzied Trap Breaker. It's a 3/3 creature, a werewolf. Pay 1, sacrifice, Frenzy, Trapbreaker, destroy target artifact or enchantment, so kind of the same as the front. Whenever Frenzy Trap Breaker attacks, destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls. So you don't have to sacrifice him if you don't want to. You could potentially attack with him to have the artifact or enchantment be destroyed. Nightbound. if a player casts at least 2 spells during their own turn, it becomes day next turn. Hungry for more. And my friend has the nickname of Snorlax, which is a Pokemon from the popular game series and trading card game. Snorlax likes to eat and sleep, so my friend would probably like this card simply based off the name of Hungry for More. It's a sorcery for a swamp and a mountain. Create a 3/1 black and red vampire creature token with trample, lifelink, and haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So, I mean, that's a lot of keywords. A 3/1 that has trample, lifelink, and haste. I mean, you can attack for 3. If the opponent blocks with a 1/1, a 2/1, whatever, you're potentially trampling over for 1 or 2. You're gaining life, and where it has haste, attacking the turn it comes in. Downside is you're sacrificing it, but I mean, at 1 toughness, comes in, has haste, attack with it, done its duty. If it doesn't die, you sacrifice it. Has a flashback of one swamp and a mountain. The reminder text says you may cast this card from your graveyard for its flashback cost, then exile it. Cathartic Pyre. This almost has a familiar name too, but I could be wrong. Where there were a lot of packs from these 2 mystery boxes. It's an instant for 1 and a mountain. Choose 1. Cathartic Pyre deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker, or discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many cards. I mean, I'm not big on discarding cards, but if you have a bad hand, discarding 1 or 2 cards to get the card draw might be worth it, you know. But, dealing 3 damage to a creature or planeswalker might also be worth it too. Looks like this pack must have had 2 lands in it, because this one's a foil full art plains, which, the other land was a full art mountain. We have a 2/2 zombie token was decayed, and then one of the kind of fill in the blank kind of cards. And now it's time for the second Innistrad Midnight Hunt decks. If the pack will cooperate, these packs seem to be a little more entertaining to open than other sets for some reason. Candlelit Cavalry, the 5/5 creature, a human knight for 4 in the forest. Coven. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, Candlelit Cavalry gains trample until end of turn. I mean, a 5/5 for 5 that only gets trample if you have 3 or more creatures with different powers. Kind of feels mediocre to okay for the mana value. Soulkite Griff, the 3/4 creature, a Hippogriff Spirit for 4 and a plains. It has flying. When Soul Guide Griff enters the battlefield, exile up to one target card from a graveyard. So where it says a graveyard, it could be any graveyard. So presumably your opponent's. Consider. It's an instant for an island. Look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard. Draw a card. So that kind of sounds like Surveil, but it's spelled out. And because of that, this is almost exactly like Opt, except instead of Scry, it's Surveil. Because Surveil is leave it at the top of the library or put it in your graveyard, where Scry is look at leave it at the top or put it on the bottom. And then, both of them are after you either Scry or Surveil, you're drawing a card. Sledge Zombie. It's a 2/2 creature, a zombie for 1 in a swamp. Tap 3 untapped creatures you control. Each opponent loses a life. I mean, tapping 3 creatures to make your opponent lose a life seems like a lot, but if your opponent has bigger creatures than you, instead of attacking with those 3 creatures and having them die, I guess tapping them to ping your opponent for 1 might somehow be better. Otherwise, I'm not really sure. But then once you have those creatures tapped, that's 3 less creatures you have to block when your opponent attacks with their bigger creatures. So, I don't know. I guess it could be situational when that could be beneficial. Plummet. It's an instant for 1 in a forest. Destroy target creature with flying. I mean, always beneficial to have something to get rid of flyers if your deck doesn't have a lot of flyers. But seems oddly specific to have removal sitting around just to be against flyers when you could have removal spells that could target any and all creatures, I guess. Emulation. It's a enchantment aura for a mountain. Enchant creature. Enchant creature gets +2/-2. I mean, that seems kind of odd that you're making the toughness weaker to make the power stronger. I mean, I guess you could slap it on your opponent's creature if their toughness is 2. You slap this on it. The -2 brings their creature down to 0, forcing, basically destroying their creature, making it go to the graveyard. So at that point, this is a 1 mana removal spell that isn't really an instant or sorcery. It's, an enchantment. Otherwise, I don't know, you could slap on a creature of yours that toughness is higher than 2 to pump their power if it's something that you don't care about losing, but maybe it has trample, you pump its power by 2 to just say, we're letting this go, hopefully it does some damage to your opponent, and if my creature dies, oh well. Cattle Trap. It's an enchantment aura for a plains. Enchant creature. Enchant creature has defender. Prevent all damage that would be dealt by enchanted creature. Coven, 2 in the plains. Sacrifice Cattle Trap, exile enchanted creature. Activate only if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers. I mean, where you're making the creature a defender and preventing any damage that would be dealt by the creature, and then being able to potentially exile the creature. I don't know. It's basically sounds like pacifism, just kind of the way it's done is a little bit different. And then the ability to exile if you pay 3 at some point. Given you have to have a certain amount of creatures with different powers, but Moonrager's Slash. It's an instant for 2 in a mountain. This spell costs 2 less to cast if it's night. Moonrager Slash deals 3 damage to any target. Escardic Awakener. It's a 1/1 creature, a human wizard for a swamp. You can pay 2 in a swamp, sacrifice another creature, draw a card, then transform Ecolock Awakener. Activate only once each turn. I mean, once it's transformed, I don't know how you would be activating this again unless it transferred to this side to then transform back to the original side. But I don't see you transforming the card back and forth, multiple times on a turn. Awoken Demon. So this is the flip side. It's a 4/4 creature, a demon with no rules text. No keywords, no nothing, just a vanilla 4/4. Blood Tithe Collector. It's a 3/4 creature, a vampire noble for 4 in a swamp. Has flying. When Blood Tithe Collector enters the battlefield, if an opponent lost life this turn, each opponent discards a card. So, it's a creature, 3/4 flyer. It's okay to mediocre for 5, but then possibly making your opponent discard if they've lost life, that's kind of a perk, but still makes it just kind of okay for the mana cost in my eyes. Sunrise Cavalier. It's a 3/3 creature, a human knight for 1, a mountain in the plains. It has trample and haste. If it's neither day nor night, it becomes day as Sunrise Cavalier enters the battlefield. When day becomes night or night becomes day, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. I mean, that definitely has high value for the mana. It's a 3/3 with trample haste right there out the gate. That's worth the 3 mana and a little extra, but then having it switched from day to night or night to day, putting a 1/1 counter on target creature you control, this seems like it's an easy target in any game. Vengeful Strangler. It's a 2/1 creature, a human rogue for 1 in a swamp. Vengeful Strangler can't block. When Vengeful Strangler dies, return it to the battlefield transformed under your control, attached to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. Interesting. So, Strangling Grasp. Enchantment Aura. Enchant creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. At the beginning of your upkeep, enchant permanent controllers sacrifices a non-land permanent and loses a life. So, I mean, this is making your opponent sacrifice a permanent and lose a life. That seems like something that's going to get, be the target of removal pretty quickly because your opponent's not going to like losing stuff and losing life for like a prolonged period of time. Hallowed Respite. It's a sorcery for a plains and an island. Exile a target non-legendary creature, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. If it entered under your control, put a 1/1 counter on it. Otherwise, tap it. I mean, a blink ability that is either putting a 1/1 counter on your creature or tapping your opponent's creature, depending on which it happens to be. That's decent. Where it's a blink ability, enter the battlefield, triggers happen because the creature's leaving the battlefield, coming back. Oh, it's coming back, hits the battlefield again, enter the battlefield, and then the either 1/1 counter or tap it part happens. Then we have a full art forest, a 1/1 flying spirit token, and again the kind of blank card. I'm not 100% sure what they're for, but they must be for something. So that was the rest of my mystery box number 2. So hopefully you found some interest in me opening these packs. I never got around to the Ninja Turtle Commander deck this weekend, so maybe sometime in the next week or so. And after the Ninja Turtle one, I'll open the last Final Fantasy Commander deck, which is a red, white, black deck called Revival Trance. So, thank you and have a good day.